Hello, and I'm with Betty Marten today.
Hi.
She's an artist who has always encouraged me along my journey, and I've always considered Betty as a great explorer in the world of art, and
Right.
she's she's always trying something new out, and is still doing that today at the age of 93.
That's it. I am 93, yes.
So, my first question for you today is why and how you began your journey as an artist.
Well, I'd always drawn as a child. I suppose being an only one and not many playmates around, that would keep me busy. But at school, I really did want to become an artist. But we're talking about 1943, 1944. There was no career for me to develop my art at that time. So I went to university to do Spanish and became a lecturer in Spanish. And I absolutely loved all those years. But when I retired, I said, now is my time. I'm going to become an artist, which I always wanted to be. And I wanted to do everything. So I went on courses for calligraphy, watercolour, botanical, everything. And then I enrolled on a very serious open College of Art for 3 years at Marlborough College, and then a little bit longer, not quite privately, but in a small group with our same tutor.
Wow.
So that's how I gained my confidence to be painting seriously.
So would you say that it's never too late to be an artist?
Well, if I'm a good example, then certainly. But I've been very fortunate in my retirement that my husband was happy with his interest, his music, and so I had the freedom. I think that's the right word, yes, the freedom and the opportunity to develop what I'd always wanted to be.
Fantastic. And when you look for something to paint or to draw, what are you looking for?
Oh, I'm not looking. It finds me. If I see a particular thing of very bright colours, because this is my main interest in what I'm actually doing when I'm painting, or I see something which has certain forms, a certain geometry, then that will interest me and I'll perhaps keep looking at it, and then I need to let it come through me. I don't know whether that makes sense.
Yes, it does. So what keeps you, inspires you just to keep going?
To keep going because of the real pleasure that I get in using colour, be it all pastel, soft pastel, not much nowadays, but mainly oil. But it is the colour that just does something inside me that makes me feel content. I've done some watercolour and I've done some pen and ink. I've tried most of these and enjoyed doing them. But the colour and the physical using of oil paint is a huge pleasure to me. And I'm concentrating completely now on oil paint. I love it.
So for you were saying that oil paints are what you love, and can you explain? I understand the colour, and I totally agree because I love mixing up the colours too. But what else is it about the oil paints compared to some other mediums?
Yeah, well, I have used all the mediums that are easily available. but it's the fluidity, and there's a kind of, how shall I express it? There's a physical enjoyment in using the paint in the same way that I think a cook, and I'm no longer one, but I used to be, enjoying cream.
I'd really like to know about your journey.
I really gained some confidence, of course, from those studies, because I had the intention before that. But I started exhibiting in some local, well, fairs actually, craft fairs, and found that I was being successful, and this was very encouraging. And then I started art trails, and then I had a number of individual, just one woman exhibitions, and that was all a wonderful experience. But you know how old I am, and I realised that physically I couldn't continue with this. People don't realise how much physical work there is putting on an exhibition. And so in 1980, so that's 13 years ago, I transformed my garage into a little gallery. It's called the Lees Gallery, and I sort of opened it, shall we say, for long weekends on invitation. It's quite a pretty little gallery, and I've made a lot of very new friends, and I've done very well. I actually nowadays, on any sale, I give 50% to a charity.
Yeah.
I'm in the position that I'm able to do that, and that gives me huge pleasure.
My next question is about your personal journey and how your paintings have changed during the years.
Well, they have changed, hopefully, that they have improved in several important ways, not only about colour usage, but the geometry and the form of my paintings. But I've become very interested in geometry, and so I'm taking one or two paintings that I have completed of. Yes, they are in fact view countryside sort of pictures, and I'm taking those paintings and sketching something out from them that becomes geometric. So I'm becoming more and more interested in shapes. It's taken me back actually to the Open College of Art, where we had a very interesting tutor, and having explained a particular painting of a great artist, we would then, for our homework, take paintings of the artist and use tracing paper and find the forms, find the geometry of the painting. And that is something that has remained very deep within me. And it's now coming out in that I am doing geometric paintings.
So you feel this is very important to composition, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. This is the Lees studio. But what we were talking about earlier, this is a very old painting indeed. And this is one of the first that I did of still life. And it seemed to me to be an interesting painting to do because of the light shining on the fruit and the contrast. I like the contrast of the light and the shade, and that is what attracted me to it. After that initial enjoying of the contrast of light and dark, it was then that I looked a little bit more carefully at at how people see things. So this is the direction, the natural direction of the eye. So people, if they analyse how they're looking at something, they work this way and and that is in a very good position. Do you see what I mean? This is really the way that a group of things will attract me with the colour, the light and the shade, and then comes the geometry of the thing, which you can adjust obviously to make it into a pleasant arrangement. So I really very much enjoy doing still life, but I have done some countryside scenes and so on. But I've also done some portraits over the years, and I was very luckily chosen to have this one hung a few years ago in the RWA after a number of years of trying. But what I'm doing at the moment is looking at paintings that I've done. For instance, this is just, I'm not sure whether you can see this very clearly because it is a print and I've covered it with cellophane, but I've been looking at it and wanting to transform it into a geometric painting. And when I say geometric, that doesn't imply straight lines as we did at school, but shapes. And I've been looking at the stretch of that particular sound arrangement, and then I've been trying to do the same down here. I've had a lot of pleasure just playing with these shapes and keeping the colours pretty well natural, although the shapes aren't. So I'm playing and loving doing it.
So I'd like to thank you, Betty, for letting us into your lovely gallery, showing us around in your world as well of art, and it's been a real pleasure.
Well, I've really enjoyed it, and you've asked me some leading questions which have given me pause for more thought.
Maybe we'll get together again.
That'd be lovely.
And if you'd like more information about Betty, there's more in the description below. And see you next week.